Is brought to you in part by Wells Fargo Bank. Hi, I'm Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. I'm also the podcast host of Invest in Her and an award-winning producer, author, and TEDx speaker. Our show, Invest in Her, features phenomenal female founders and funders. As you know, women receive less than 2% of venture capital funding. Our series is about accelerating the funding of women by connecting them to funding resources. Let's meet today's guest. Welcome to this week's episode of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. And then as of late, the producer of Show Her the Money, which is our movie that's on a 50-city tour around the country that is helping women to understand venture capital and also how they can become angel investors in that asset class. Very important to the future of our world. And so we hope you visit us at showherthemoneymovie.com. This week, as always, I have on an incredible guest. She is a woman that I've known for quite a while because we work together in 50 Women Can Change the World in Media and Entertainment. She is a co-founder of that entity. She's also the founder and president of See Jane Do. And more recently, she is heading up a lot of the operations at the ERA Coalition in biz dev and partnerships. Please welcome to the show, Elisa Parker. Hi, Elisa.
Hey, Catherine. It's I always love connecting with you. And it's an honor to be part of this. And as you mentioned, with the pandemic and everything, years have just flown by, but we first connected, like you said, with the 50 Women and Media and Entertainment Project. I'm so proud of everything you're doing, Catherine. Like you are walking the talk, your vision you've had to support women and their businesses with money. And we'll talk about that, but it's just, your film's extraordinary. Just congratulations.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you. And along my path, I get to meet the incredible women like yourself, who are, all these years I've known you doing incredible work yourself. So, today, I know we want to focus on the ERA. You had just shared with me that the ERA, which we'll explain exactly what that is 100 years old, was introduced to Congress 100 years ago. Equal rights for women. Explain what the ERA is and why it hasn't been ratified yet. How crazy is this?
How crazy. Well, first, so here's the great news. It's been ratified. We met the requirements several years ago.
Oh, right. Ratified, but not published.
Published. So ERA, first of all, it's true. A lot of folks are thinking, number one, what is the ERA? And second, I thought that was already a thing. I thought we already are protected as women in our Constitution. Stands for Equal Rights Amendment. This will be our 28th Amendment in our Constitution. And as you mentioned, it was introduced into Congress in 1913. Shortly after
1913, women rallied that we should have equal rights for women, right?
Correct. And this was shortly too after looking at the 19th Amendment, women's right to vote. Alice Paul knew that wouldn't be enough. We needed to have something in our Constitution. And by the way, it really just says, in summary, no one will be discriminated against based on sex. That's what it says. So this is all inclusive for everyone.
Yeah, there's women. No downside to it. What do you think?
No.
Why are men so opposed to it? I'd love to know your thoughts on that.
Oh my gosh, Catherine. Well, I also want to mention we're one of the only countries that does not have sex equality in the Constitution. We're one of the only westernized countries that doesn't. So just to put that into framework, when people think we do, no. And I think we saw the tipping point, and we'll talk about why maybe there was resistance, but the tipping point, I think, is when Roe v. Wade was overturned, the Dobbs decision. And there is in fact, look, even what we saw in Pennsylvania around the ERA, because this has been ratified in other states, right? They could look at the ERA and say women have a right to choose. that is protected. Now, we just saw that. It just was a decision made with the statewide Supreme Court. So there you go. I don't know why, Catherine, people are resistant. I mean, actually, it's the number of folks who want this to be published in our Constitution. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's like over 80%, maybe even 90% of people who do want this.
It doesn't make any sense. I think most young women, most women at large, most people at large think there is an equal rights amendment to the Constitution, because it's been talked about all of our lives. Recently saw that movie last year about how, Anita Bryant was against it, and she got a whole coalition of women against it. That's the craziest part of the history of this, is that it's actually been women sometimes that have stood in the way of it actually being both ratified and published. You had to get a certain number of states to get behind this, right? That was what was holding it up. We finally got the number of states we needed, but not in the time frame that we needed. It had to be done in what time frame was that?
I mean, initially it was like 7 years. And mind you, the ERA has gone through these waves and milestones, right? So looking at the second wave movement in the 70s, then we had the Year of the Woman and I can't remember which specific year in the 80s, tons of women ran and won. We saw that happen again. I'm not even going to say it's a trend, because it is a movement of how we are mobilizing into action for gender parity and equality. But we saw that again several years ago when Trump was elected, and women showing up and running for office. Hence is why one of the reasons we were able to get the 38 states, right? The last 3 that had been Virginia, Nevada, Illinois, right? The states that finally pushed this to that point of saying it's ratified, let's publish it. Trump was in office then. He said, I'm putting in this timeline memo. It's not going to happen. That said, there's movement now. I was mentioning to Catherine offline that there is so much movement right now that even though it's been, we say 100 years and not one more. And I feel like, Catherine, more than ever, it's going to happen. We have an ERA caucus that is the 5th largest caucus in the United States. It is led by 2 extraordinary women of color, Congresswoman Presley, Congresswoman Bush. There is now unified efforts now bringing in the Senate. So Bush and Senator Gillibrand also have a bill they've initiated around this. So there is movement. There is the ERA Youth Coalition, like Gen Ratified. There's thousands of Gen Z youth that are very engaged in this, because let's face it, like I have 2 girls. They're both turning 8. One's turning 18, one's turning 21 in a couple of weeks. They have less rights than we did when we were their age, Catherine.
Right.
This publication of the ERA in our Constitution, I say, because you know how it keeps getting projected out that we won't have gender equality for another 150 years. I mean, we're throwing out so many different numbers. It's going to take, it seems like eons, but that the publication of the ERA is going to be one of the biggest things that can change. It's going to be one of the biggest things that will happen for us in our lifetime around gender equality. We focus a lot on the cost of not having the ERA, right? Invest in her, supporting so many incredible women and their businesses. And
I think we have a groundswell.
The cost of that, this is a big deal.
And we have a groundswell of things happening to help shift this, because women are aware they're getting the short end of the stick. So we're encouraging more women to become investors, especially in venture capital, which is one of the most important asset classes to scaling businesses, to creating wealth. It's why we made the movie Show Her the Money that we're taking around the country and around the world, to encourage more women to understand what is venture capital, how fascinating it is, why they should be investing in it. And by storytelling and engaging them in these women's stories about why they want to be part of that important ecosystem. It's important to our future, what products and services are going to be there, and ones that actually address women. I always say, the people tend to invest in people they identify with. We need more women
Yes.
at that decision-making table, deciding who gets the funding. And the ERA, which would be an amendment to the Constitution, would be call for equality for women, equal pay, right? Equal pay.
Yes,
and
equal pay, body autonomy. It also with violence against women. I mean, it's our first step is having this published, Catherine. And I say us, we have over 300 partner organizations who are leaders in the equality movement. And that is growing and expanding. It represents over 80 million people who are part of that. So there is a lot of movement in this, but we say it intersects on economics and all of everyday lives, sports. I mean, especially the focus with your audience and the women that you've been supporting and connecting with and starting their own businesses and investing in them. The ERA publication is going to be a tremendous benefit and support for all of us as women who are starting our own businesses.
Now, some women might ask you, since you're an expert in this arena, okay, so we publish it. It becomes an amendment to the Constitution,
right.
Equal equality for women to create gender equity. Once that's in place, what will that look like? How will that change for me as a woman, maybe a business owner? Like, what will, or working for a corporation, what will that look like?
It's such a great question.
Understand how important it is, right?
It is. It's such a great question. I'm not a disclaimer. Elisa is not a legal expert, and we do have amazing legal advisors who are part of our team on this. But so the first part's publication. The second part, as you mentioned, Catherine, what does this look like? So what we're doing is the coalition is bringing together leaders in this movement of all sectors, because the second part is how do we uphold this? And we want to help define and shape, number one, what equality means to us. And honestly, it's also going to be a lot of legal ramifications, right? We're seeing this already in some of the states that have ratified the ERA, with, like I mentioned, the case that just happened recently around abortion, and that specifically is tied to the ERA, right? So we're going to be seeing a lot of legal cases coming up. It's going to take some time. That said, what I love to do, and I know what you love to do as well, is the public awareness and education and both putting the pressure. So we get to help both not define, but help tell those stories of why this is so important and how we show up for each other in this, so that we know, like, you know, with so many of the women you connected with, that we are working with you. We're working with each other to say, these are not only your legal rights, but now this is also what you need to know, like, as far as pay equity around, I mean, you know, even in healthcare, like so much of the research, talk about sex discrimination, is focused on men, especially white men, right? And so there's such a gap here, but it's going to take some time, Catherine. It's
so in
not
other
going to
words,
take 100 years, but
could you be at a company and say, I have the same position as this man, and according to the Equal Rights Amendment, I should be getting paid the same? Like, could it be used in that capacity?
I believe so. Yeah. And that's a big part, like I said, a big part of the focus.
Yeah.
Especially this year. Equal means equal. A big part of this year for us with the 100 years, not one more, is again talking about how this connects and relates to all of us as everyday citizens of this country. And it involves every single one of us in this. So bringing public education awareness, and especially the cost of not having this.
Right. And I imagine there's some people out there going, what do we need an amendment for? Aren't there equal rights? No, they're not.
No, there's not. No.
Women continue to be paid less, and they continue to get the short end of the stick on so many areas of business and life that you do need to put it into law. It's just like you need any of the other amendments, right?
Catherine, I think a lot of us thought that we would never see Roe v. Wade overturned, right? I think a lot of us did, because that's what we were told. It won't be touched.
So do
And
you
what
think if
we
the
learned,
ERA had been in place, do you think it would have stopped that from being overturned?
I mean, there are speculations on both sides, right? And that is certainly part of one of the reasons around our own body autonomy and freedom with our bodies. Honestly, when folks ask why, like, not everyone's supporting this. I mean, the abortion conversation comes up in this, as we just saw again in, I think it was Pennsylvania with that case, ERA and abortion it very well could be connected. It could very well give you a chance to say that's not okay. And so there is a thought that we would have had, many will say, we would have had a legal stance to say that's not allowed.
Right.
Because it's in the Constitution.
So how do people become involved with ERA Coalition? And where do we find your podcast, Equality Talks? Because I know it's all tied in.
I know I want to feature you on it, Catherine, because I really do want to talk about the economics of all of this and how it does tie to the Equal Rights Amendment and just our equality in general. Like, we know when we have the power with money, that is going to help propel us in so many ways. Well, first of all, how to get involved. There are many ways. First, we're a national based organization, and our partners represent or like now in the League of Women Voters and the National Women's History Museum. We just brought on Vital Voices. So I bet wherever you are, there is an organization that is connected to the ERA. Second, we always welcome you to join as a partner with our coalition. And of course, right now we have two different petitions. One is the discharge petition, which I discussed in Congress, that we encourage folks to review and hopefully support. And then the second one is one of our champions and chairs of the coalition is Honorable Carolyn Maloney. And she has been a huge champion of the ERA. And she, along with students at Hunter College, have initiated a petition that now has thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that have signed on. So it's putting the pressure. The other way to get involved, Catherine, is to tell your story around this and to let everyone know that we don't have equal rights in our Constitution, that that's not real. We really don't. And that this is going to change our lives. Please share your stories around this. We have convenings coming up. We have a large one happening in April in Los Angeles, in your hometown. And so there will be more to come on that and how to involve your viewers and the women that you work with on that. We have another one coming up in New York as well in the fall. It's an election year, so it's a big year. So
definitely. Well, we want more women to get involved, and that's why I'm so happy to have you on the show. I imagine, you're a 17-year award-winning talk show host. So I think that we should encourage people to watch your new show, the podcast.
Equality Talks. Equality.
Which I imagine you can be found on any of the Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, right? Yeah.
So Equality Talks, I launched that several months ago, and I should just mention this is what Catherine and I, this is our passion, is connecting through story. And through See Jane Do, I've had the gift of being connected with so many phenomenal women. And I'm just honored to be able to do that with Equality Talks. It's our official ERA Coalition podcast. We've had guests recently like Dolores Huerta, Suzanne Lerner, Representative Cori Bush, members of Generation Ratify, Maria Teresa Kumar of Voto Latino. Check out Voto Latino if you want to see a model for creating change within our democracy. They are amazing. So, and I would love to feature you, Catherine, in this. And again, I know we both believe in collaboration and partnership, and that as women, it's the feminist model.
Absolutely. And I know you've been championing it for years. I love collaborating with you. I'm so proud of what you're doing.
Thanks,
It's going to make such a difference in history going forward for women and generations to come. So we've got to get this amendment not only ratified, but published. And ladies, get behind it in whatever way you can. Check out the ERA Coalition or any entity in your area that is getting behind publishing this ERA amendment that's so important to women and gender equality.
Yes.
Where can they find you, Elisa?
So you can find me at many places. Like Catherine, I'm all over the place. I say I'm like the Spider Woman, like weaving the webs, and we all show up in our lanes, but we're also connected with each other. So online, you can find me both. Check out the eracoalition.org. And we have a really great social campaign on there as well, cjanedo.com. And of course, like Catherine mentioned, do check out, listen to Equality Talks. You can find that on all the podcast platforms, including Spotify, and on our website as well. But yeah, we're all over, Catherine. We're everywhere.
We're everywhere. And Elisa, I know you are also on LinkedIn, obviously.
Yes.
So you can find Elisa Parker. If you're just listening and not watching, it's ELISA and then Parker. Of course, you can find me on there as well, Catherine Gray. We are on Instagram, Catherine Gray, Invest in Her. And we hope you'll visit us at sheangelinvestors.com. And we also have She Angel Investors on all of the social media platforms. Don't forget to check out our film. It's called showherthemoneymovie.com, coming to an area near you so you can see it and screen it. You could also screen it yourself with your organization. So be sure to check that out. And we have social media, Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn for that as well. So you will find me and Elisa, and you are going to want to, because we want you to become part of our endeavors to move women forward and empower women in every way that we can. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in, everybody. Elisa, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. Make it a great day, everybody.
Thank you for having me.